if you're listening to, someone, define a Muslim and then define Christ as fitting that definition, some people would still understand that as Christology because they're taking, who Christ is. It's who Christ is as its identity, his identity, which would be a form of Christology. But nevertheless, I would say that, Jesus is a Muslim because of the covenant between God and creation, by which is an Islamic covenant under which the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam perfected and completed the religion. Christ would fall in line with the prophets and messengers, peace and blessings be upon them, under that covenant.
All right. So, okay. So what is that covenant that Muhammad, you said was, highlighted through Muhammad, and that all the prophets basically were aligned in that covenant? What is that?
This is the covenant of Islam, worshiping the one true God and having no partners or associations with the one true God.
Got it.
Peace and blessings.
Got it. Yeah. So Jesus
peace and blessings be upon him, for sure.
Okay. So you're saying that Jesus held the same beliefs that basically you see in the Quran as it describes Allah, as it lays down his character, his attributes. These are the same things that Jesus also held to and believed
in. Yes, I would say that. Correct.
Okay. All right, good. So just to be clear, though, so that I make sure that we understand what you mean when you're talking about submitting to the one true God, being Allah, obviously in the Quran, you said he doesn't beget nor is it begotten. He's absolutely singular in his essence, right? He's not a trinity or has no partners or anything like that, correct?
No, God has no trinity. God is one. God it's not multiple anything. God is complete, one whole, absolute, full unity, simplicity.
Okay. And he's not a father in any sense.
God has no offsprings. Like, these aren't literal terms. No, God is not having, procreation. Yeah, no, God is not doing that. That would make him a father.
Is he a father? No, is he a father in a metaphorical sense?
I mean, it would honestly have to be how you describe metaphor, right? So if, once again, you want to say, how would you describe father? Like, what was your metaphor?
Well, in any way, like a father can be one by adoption. You adopted a kid and took him in as your own, or took someone in as your own and care for them that way.
Legalistic way, like a legal standing. Is that what you're saying?
You can be, you can be an adoptive father. You can be, just like a father figure to someone. So, like, let's say someone someone looks at an older gentleman, and like that's he refers to him as father because he is they have that type of relationship, even though they're not literal. Like, he didn't come from his loins, nor is he adopted by this man, but he. They have that type of relationship where he basically took him under his wing and cared for him as if he was his own son.
If you're describing, that and trying to use that as a theological lens by which to view the supreme deity, that would be a human understanding that is limited. Islam wouldn't subscribe to that. We don't necessarily teach our followers to subscribe to those types of human projections onto God, right? This is anthropomorphism, right? This is not even a necessarily theological term. This is also, psychological literature,
beautiful,
by which people study humans and see that humans, try to, make things in their image.
Yes.
But we know in Islam that God is above, all human attempts to make image out of God.
Got you.
Sure. So in that sense, no, that metaphor would not apply. No.
Got you. All right. Thank you for being clear. Thank you for being straightforward. So, all right, good. So we now I understand. We set the foundation of what you mean by submitting to God, the true God, specifically the God who's not a father in any sense, the God who doesn't beget, who's begotten, none of that. He's absolutely singular in his essence, has no partners. He's not a multiplicity of persons, not any of that. He's absolutely singular in his essence. This is who the true God is that you have to submit to in order to be a Muslim. Is that correct?
Fundamentally, right? When we talk about theology, when we talk about the language that should be used to describe God, historically, if we're looking at, honestly, the development of Islam, the development of Christianity, the development of Hebrew Judaism, and different what they will classify as Abrahamic religions, but I mean that's even a limited term there. If we're to look at the development of those things obviously were developed out of human attempts to ascribe certain theological language to God.
All right.
And because of that, there developed, right, systematic ways of interpreting and understanding God, by which some people deviated and others did not. This is explained to us clearly in Islam, and when it teaches us that the Quran is the criterion or the judger of, what came before, so that we can have a purer understanding of the simplicity of Islam and the covenantal agreement of the supreme God and the prophets that he sent, peace and blessings be upon him,
All right.
of which Jesus will be a part.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Okay. So can you show me, that Jesus believed and submitted to the same God that we established that we're talking about? The one who has no.
Can I?
Yeah. Can you show me?
Can I show you?
Yes.
Well, honestly, so this depends honestly on what people take as verifiable or verifiable evidence, right? So if we're looking at certain historical documents, some that people say they want it to be, religious or spiritual, right? Some people say, it's, corpus of literature, antiquity, XYZ. Depending on how people judge the value of those things, we can take a number of arrangements to establishing the identity of the Christ, for sure.
Okay. So how would you do that? How would you show me historically that Jesus was a Muslim?
As a Muslim, for me, it would be in the Quran, for sure.
Well, that's what I'm challenging. I'm challenging the claim of the Quran, right? The Quran makes the claim that Jesus was a Muslim who believed these certain things. So that's the claim. And I'm saying, okay, I see that the Quran says this. Now, how do can we verify that Jesus historically actually believed these things? That God is not a father in any sense, that, he's absolutely singular in his essence, yada, 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 Can we solidify this historically?
Absolutely. So, number one is, right, if we're looking at the Quran, right, and you're saying, okay, I see what the Quran says and its claims, and I want to justify this. It seems like you're asking is for extra, Quranic evidence to solidify the claim of the Quran. Am I understanding your question?
Yeah, it would have to be, because the Quran makes the claim, so the claim isn't evidence within itself.
I mean, I could understand that for sure. Like, you want some to substantiate the claim itself, but the claim can still be valid without any substantiated evidence, as with any, claim, for sure, if it's true, right?
How so?
So if I, for example, let me give an example. If someone says I went to the gas station at 5 p.m., they made that claim, which may very well be true in and of itself, right? With or without evidence, correct?
If it truly happened, yes, but there's but it can't be. Right, okay. So you're saying something could be true without evidence to back it up?
If it's true, obviously, correct, right?
Okay.
If it's true, yeah, that's common sense. We know these things, right? Yeah.
So is that the case here, or is there evidence to back up this claim that Jesus was a Muslim, or are we just like, doing
we're talking
the
about
trust me
divine
bro
revelation
thing?
Well, no, we're not talking about doing the trust me bro thing, but I just wanted to clarify, right? So, that we understand that you're looking for a substantial claim outside of the Quran, but it needs to be understood for our audience. So also understanding the logic or greater scope of things, that you don't necessarily need a claim to back up what's true, but it is suggested otherwise to go and get a claim. Let's just understand that and make that evident. So that being said, right, if we're looking for substantial evidence from the Quran, we have to take from the Islamic perspective as a Muslim that this is extra evidence outside of the Quran, which is not giving the authority as the supreme word of God, correct?
Well, I wouldn't say that, because I don't. Right? Yes, exactly. I'm testing the claim, So I'm not here with the presupposition that the Quran is the word of God, and so therefore whatever it says is true. I'm on the outside looking in, like, okay, it claims to be the word of God, so it should get this right. Let me try to verify this.
Okay, understood. That being said, if we want to take historical evidence outside of the Quran, outside of the corpus of, the supreme word of God, then we can look at, what history provides us.
Yes.
Right? Are you?
Yes.
Okay, for sure. We can look at what history provides us, and we can take some judgments and some reasons from it. And as the Quran dictates to Muslims, we can judge by the Quran.
Judge by the Quran?
Yeah, it's the criterion by which we judge these evidential truths to be true, for sure.
I wouldn't agree with that. We're talking about history here.
I know you wouldn't, but I'm stating as for Islam, because you're asking me to provide from the Islamic perspective.
So are you saying that the Quran determines history and what happened in history even before the Quran came?
We're talking about Christology and Jesus being a Muslim. Alhamdulillah. But if you want to make those other substantial claims into the argument, I wouldn't necessarily move our goalpost there for the audience. I would actually shift it back to the Christ to keep things simple and on a, is narrow for the audience. Absolutely.
Yeah. So what historical evidence do we have to show that Jesus was a Muslim, that he believed the same things that we've established that you must believe in order to be a Muslim?
Okay, so we know, number one, that this Jesus person, right? Peace and blessings be upon him if you're a Muslim, right? If we're talking about historically, comes in a context, right? At least from the Islamic perspective, comes in a context of other historical figures. This would be like Musa alayhi salam, King David, King Dawood, peace and blessings be upon him. Other historical figures, right? Up underneath the Islamic covenant of God's prophets and messengers. So we could look at the evidential claims that substantiate these characters and judge between them and seeing whereby they are taught you should believe in one true God and to avoid paganism, which would be the pluralism of ideologies.
Well, I'm not asking about what Moses or Abraham or David taught. I'm asking specifically about Jesus. Like you can't say David, Moses and these other people, they taught this, so therefore Jesus taught it. No, we have to see what Jesus taught himself. That's what I'm asking for.
Okay, if we want to look like, keeping the goalpost too.
I'm talking about Jesus specifically, not anybody else.
This is okay, but I just wanted to establish that, the Quran and Islamic understanding of the Christ comes in context of other historical characters. We didn't just grab this out of the blue, so that's understood for the audience.
That's fine. We're pretty educated audience. We know what Islam believes.
If we look at the corpus of Christological evidence of this person called Christ, we're going to see that there's a lot of literature, correct?
Yeah, there is.
And some of this literature, let's be honest, conflicts, correct?
What do you mean? What literature?
This would be the literature supposedly of ancient writings. Some people call them the Gospels. Some people call them Injils. Some people call these.
I would not.
Other commentaries.
I would not agree.
Other commentaries.
I would not agree.
Other commentaries. Oh, that's okay. You don't have to agree. But let me just state my claim. There are these other corpuses of literature found. Some people call them gospels. Some people call them letters. Some people call them ancient documents, by which certain people do take historical looks or claims at and judge by which there is this character called the Christ or Jesus of Nazareth.
All right. So let's come on, man. Let's get straight to it. Can we get to the point where we're looking at evidence now from these historical documents where it proves that Jesus believed the same things that I see the Quran teaches about God?
I mean, yeah, which document do you want to pull up outside of the Quran that you want me to look at that says that Jesus?
The most reliable historical sources we can get to, the primary sources.
What would you say would be the primary sources? Bring them up.
The gospel accounts.
You say these would be the primary sources?
Yeah.
So you want to look at the Gospels?
Yes, those are the historical accounts that we have on Jesus's life.
Okay, cool. That's perfectly fine. We can look at the Gospels because you want to look at the Gospels, right? Let's just make this clear and understood for the audience because, right? I mentioned the Quran. We could look at the Quran, but he wants substantial evidence. What would be from history, which would be in the Gospels. So we can take a look at the Gospel. Is there a specific book you want to look at, or would you like for me to?
No, I said it's wherever you feel like in these historical documents will prove and verify that he was a Muslim. I don't know if you're talking. Your connection's bad. You got a red bar next to your name.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's better. That's better.
Okay, for sure. Okay, great. Well, okay, let's pull up this claim. Have you heard of like Luke 6:40?
What does it say?
I don't have it in front of me. Would you like to pull it up?
Yeah, I can get it up here. Let me see. Luke 6:40. Make sure you guys are hitting the like button. Don't just be sitting here, man. We know what you do secretly. if you ain't hitting that button. So Luke chapter 6.
I mean, yeah, this is because you want the gospel though. So I'm going to give it to you from the gospel because you want it. And for the audience, I'm pretty sure they want to hear some claims from the gospel for sure.
So wait, so are you
Now,
saying
what
so
version are you
do
reading
you
from?
agree?
What version are you reading
This is
from now? What
ESV.
version?
This is ESV. But do
Which
you agree that these are historical documents that can verify, what Jesus believed, did, taught?
No, I don't believe that they can necessarily verify exactly what Jesus did and taught. I do believe they should be looked at as what they are presented as, which would be accounts. They are supposed accounts, right? But are they all the way verifiable and that we should take as literal as 100%? No, absolutely not.
Okay. So if you don't think that if this is evidence that will help, what I'm asking for, you don't have to use this.
Okay. I thought you wanted the gospels though.
Well, you asked me what evidence do I want. I said I want primary sources. You said what is that? I said which are the gospel accounts. But
that's for you.
Well, no, it's not. It's not. I'm talking objectively. It's not just for me.
Okay. I mean, okay, so you would say the primary gospel accounts. What gospels would you say? Because we got other gospels I could look at. We could look at too.
There's only 4 gospel accounts.
Why do you say it's only 4? Is that true or is that what you say?
That's true. There's only 4 gospel accounts.
There's only 4 gospel accounts. According to who? Is there not
according
more
to the church tradition and church history for 2,000 years?
So you saying they didn't dispute any other gospel accounts?
There were other Gnostic gospels that were brought up that were easily refuted and identified as fabrications.
Okay, so there were other gospel accounts
that were late fabrications, proven forgeries, so they're not gospels.
So there are other gospel accounts that were considered by quote unquote the literature of quote unquote Christianity.
They were not considered. They were thrown out. They were exposed. They were never thought to be true. There was never anything like that, bro. So
you're telling me that there weren't circulations of gospels that were written by different ethnicities and different groups.
Different ethnicities?
There were. Are you so? Okay. Here's my question.
Do you take the Gnostic Gospels as evidence?
Absolutely. What's in the corpus of, because you're asking for substantial. Listen.
Oh, wow.
You're asking. Listen. You're asking for historical documents within 2,000 years ago that mention this person, Jesus.
Yeah, these aren't 2,000 years ago. These aren't documents from 2,000 years ago. These will be documents from, I would say, 1,900 years, 1,700 years.
If I was born and living at this time that we currently are now,
we're never going to get to
it. If I was observing history, I would take the Gnostic Gospels as historical literature to consider whether or not Jesus was a Muslim. I got to be honest about what's out there.
Okay.
Come on, let's be true.
Okay, and so if you're going to look at the Gnostic Gospels, no historian would look at those and take those as historical evidence for anything that they get about Jesus. They're not primary sources. They're proven forgeries. They're late. No one, not even liberal, non-Christian scholars take them as historical information on Jesus.
This is not true. This is not true because when the Gnostic Gospels first came out, every scholar had to reevaluate the Gospels. They had to literally look and see what these.
So they never first came out. They've been around. What are you talking about?
Okay. So listen. When the Nag Hammadi scriptures were found, right?
Brother,
did not the whole Christian scholars go and consider whether these books were?
I feel like we're wasting time, man. Do you have a historical document, a primary source on which I can look at Jesus and say, okay, this is what he taught, this is what he believed. Okay, I can see that he was a Muslim, or no, he wasn't a Muslim. Based on the primary sources, do we have that or not?
Number one, I'm not going to agree with your primary sources. So if you want to call those primary sources,
do we have? Dude, I'm just asking the simple question. Do we? For example, what language did Jesus speak?
You can say Aramaic.
How do you know that? How do you know that?
You can say Latin.
How do you know?
These are claims.
How do you know?
These are claims.
Yeah. How do you know?
These are claims.
I just asked you, what language did Jesus speak? Your answer was Aramaic. My question is, how do you know that he spoke Aramaic?
Come on, these are claims from history, man.
What history?
From the corporate. These are from the sources that you say are primary. They're sources, but they're not primary.
So so there we go. So you're taking from the sources that you're saying that you don't agree are primary, but are relying on these non-primary sources that, according to me, are primary to tell me what language Jesus definitely spoke. They're even primary to you.
They're not primary to me. They're not. They're primary to you.
You're the one who wants where was Jesus born?
I'm telling you that they're just historical sources.
Where was Jesus born?
These are the claims. They say he was born in Nazareth. This is a
no. I'm not asking about a claim. I'm asking for a fact. Where was he born?
I'm questioning the facts. This is what we're doing.
So just say you don't. So just say you don't know. Just say you don't know.
You're taking these claims as historical facts.
Just say you don't know.
I'm not telling you I don't know.
So do you know? Okay, let me ask you this then, since I can't get an answer on that. Do you know where Jesus was born? Do you know where Jesus was born?
Listen, from the historical claims, these are what suggested where he was born.
Do you know where Jesus was born?
From the historical claims and what they tell me,
do you know where Jesus was born or not?
Do you know?
All right, brother.
Come on, let's be honest. Do you know?
Hey, man. I'm a respectfully. It looks like we're not going to get anywhere, brother. So
he said we're not going to get anywhere. Yeah. It's okay. And it's
okay. I got to call it a day, man. I appreciate you.
It's okay because you don't want to take other historical documents as literature. I get it.
And you don't want to admit that you're using the primary sources of the Gospels. You don't want to admit that you're relying on them, but you don't want to get anywhere. You're wasting my time, man. Wasting my time, respectfully. Just a lot of babble and a lot of talk and a lot of with nothing, no substance. No substance whatsoever.